Hi, everybody. This is day 1375, and no sign of Richard's remains. No sign of Richard's remains, and we know that they have them. We know it. Um, you know, on April 24th, 2024, was it? 26? Oh my gosh. Yeah. Um, still shaken. Still shaken from the whole thing. We received the the notice of death, and there's a lot that goes with that, and yet we have the likes of Bob Moore up to no good. He is his actions and his part in our son's case are criminal. Therefore, he cannot be an independent journalist. And so we're going to have to deal with that on top of the uh, the pursuit to get our son's remains, right? Um, for this criminal murder case to be investigated. And, you know, for 4 years, we have been telling them that Richard has been murdered. We have been breaking news, breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. Now, at the beginning, we said, okay, we will hear you out while we're finding evidence, but we know this from the beginning. I said it to our eldest son, Robert, from the very beginning, um, that we believe that Richard had been murdered and was in a ditch somewhere. From the very beginning, when we were still in Sarasota, Florida. Um, and remember, Jay Paulin, who is absolutely a suspect in our son's case, um, said, you know about Vanessa Guillen. Well, let me assure you, this ain't that. Okay, so he was telling us what happened. That was September 3rd, 2020. September 3rd, 2020. I'll never forget that day. And, you know, we didn't call Richard the Vanessa Guillen first absent soldier. It was the Army that called Richard the first absent soldier, the Vanessa Guillen first absent soldier. Okay. And now we know we have his notice of death. That that had to be given to us because of the mountains of evidence which we have been providing, which we have discovered, which we have provided. Thank you, Team Farm Richard Halliday. So let me get on and make sure I'm on so I can read all the news. And I want to talk about this dirty duo. So, what's happening in our son's case? At the very, very beginning of all of this, we went with, we've always had good intention. We've always been authentic. And we went to El Paso and we said, okay, tell us where's our son? Let's go find it. They're like, you need to bring us leads. And we're like, okay, and then we're like, okay, we're going to do rallies. We're going to do rallies. So we went to El Paso and we did rallies day in and day in and day out, talking with people, gathering evidence, gathering evidence. And we gathered a lot of evidence beyond a reasonable doubt in 2020, beyond a reasonable doubt that Richard was murdered. But yet there was interference upon interference upon interference. And right now, of course, it was CID, Fort Bliss CID agent Tavita Nusa. right? Because he was there supposed to be investigating the case, yet he was being paraded around by Leilani Hart, bragging that they were interfering in the case, that they were tampering with files, with video files. She wrote papers on this case. Leilani Hart is the one that said that this was a code red. That wasn't us. It was her and her paper. It's all out there. It's obvious that Richard was murdered. Do I want to say that? No. I even said to the media then, this is the first time that I hope I'm wrong. But now, just a few days ago, they told us, they presented the notice of death. What we knew all along, they finally had to give us that notice of death. And we have those that have acted criminally in this case and this investigation, that they are still trying to do their dirty deeds. And of course, that's Bob Moore of El Paso Matters. So, first we have the dirty CID agent. Of course, we've had dirty Bob Moore at El Paso Matters, which is owned by El Paso Community Foundation. We're talking about, a crime that is just gross. That is just gross, because they're doing dirty deeds with the story of a murdered Fort Bliss soldier. That's what they're trying to do. And so if you know, and thank you so much, Team Find Richard Halliday, for letting us know where these stories are, where they're being disseminated to, so that we can warn them about our legal action that's going forth, right? Because this is, how can a family that have been through all of this, their child, their son, volunteers for the Army, right? To serve, to defend the Constitution, which is the land and the people. It's what gives us a right to be here, to speak, to pursue justice. And so he's going into the military voluntarily to defend every person here their right, and the land, to defend the land. It's super important. And Bob Moore wants to play in the mud, sling mud, dirty up, muddy the waters, whatever you want to say. He is playing in the mud with the story of Richard Halliday's death. It's absolutely criminal. When he's been criminally involved, obstructing justice in our son's case. I think he's just grasping, he's just grasping, trying to control the narrative, like whatever, like these little pieces of grass that are in the water. He's trying to, grab onto them to keep from drowning. And he's not drowning because of us. He's drowning in because of all of his crime. That's what he's drowning in. All of his deception, all of his manipulation, going over to the site that was pretending to be us, being an imposter site, and then superimposing threatening, being bullies, attacking even Richard by superimposing his face on a an inmate, a death row inmate that had just been executed. This is this is how they deal with our volunteer soldiers right there at Fort Bliss. They don't care about them. And trying to spew their garbage that Richard was troubled. You know what he was troubled about? He was troubled about children being trafficked. He was troubled about the weapons being trafficked. He was troubled about all the ammunition being trafficked. Where's all this money being washed, right? Why is Bob Moore so nervous for El Paso Community Foundation, for West Star Bank? Richard was troubled. He was troubled about the barracks not following SOP and being a marketplace for illegal drugs. He was troubled about that, and that's why he became a whistleblower. A whistleblower to say this is unacceptable, because these dirty duos, these dirty, that make a lot of money. They might make a lot, but they do it on the backs of our volunteer sons and daughters, on our community, and they know how to pass taxes. They legalize theft. That's what they do. They legalize their theft of our country, of our young people and our communities, our elder people. They legalize theft through taxes, through their manipulation of the politics, because they want to do these dirty businesses like weapons trafficking, like the ammunition trafficking, the human trafficking, the child porn, the narcotics trafficking. They want to make the money. They want to play dirty with the cartel. They want to play dirty going over the border. They dirty that. Look at the old vintage pictures of El Paso. I was born in White Sands. I went to school in El Paso. I would go over the border all the time. They are slowly ruining this beautiful, multicultural, international, ancient city. And look at what they've done to Juarez. And we used to be able to share in all the joy. All the joy. And they're just bringing this hate, and because that whole Walmart mass shooting was a total orchestrated hate job. And because we know that as Team Find Richard Halliday, they're using Bob Moore to be a dirty duo with CID Tavita Newsom, who lost his badge. He lost his badge, but that is what caused the interference, really terrible interference in our son's case that we've had to undo and undo and undo in 4 years. Because don't forget, this was 2020, 2021, COVID. COVID was so destructive. The mandates, what they did. And see, we say that too, and they're like, we can admit that they committed crimes against humanity against us, right? So, we're not playing their Vanity Fair games. We want truth, we want justice, we want what is right. We want the people of El Paso to be defended, which means their constitutional rights defended. Right now, the justice system there in El Paso is broken. They have an illegal DA, and we need to get investigations going for the remains of our son, and they're trying to block it again, interfere again. And, I don't know how all of you feel about this. I think you pretty much agree with us. We're not going to put up with it. Go away, Bob Moore. Go away. You cannot be an independent journalist. You need to be stripped of your rights of being this independent journalist after all the crime that you've committed in this case. And I would even say the Walmart case. And with Yvonne Rosales. See, he's dirty with Yvonne Rosales, with unseating her illegally. Oh, she signed her resignation. No, look, we've got the open records. They colluded. They were, I can't even tell you how evil. It's not even in my being, but it's just that bad. So not only in the dirty deeds in the justice system that they did, but the dirty deeds with the Walmart case, interfering with that, and then the dirty deeds interfering with Richard's case. So, anyone that is carrying that story, his news story, we have been writing. If we've missed any, please send it to us. We've been writing them to warn them that we're absolutely have to take legal action, because he is playing in the mud with our son's story, our son's death. And, he's not reporting the full story. He's not reporting everything about Leilani Hart. He's not reporting anything about her confession. I mean, she's a convicted criminal confessing to her family being engaged in incest and the rape of a 7-year-old in her master bedroom, and her immigration problems, and yeah, and the child porn and all of that. He's not saying that. He's not talking the truth. He's not being honest. And he's not saying that Richard is a confirmed whistleblower, that he was making phone calls to Washington, D.C., to FBI Houston, that before he went missing, before he was murdered, he was making 911 calls. Before he was murdered, they took away his phone. Who could take away his phone? The platoon leader. Who's the platoon leader? Dallas Hart. He's not saying that. And his body is still missing. His remains are still missing, even though the murder was on Fort Bliss. He's not saying that. See, yeah, thank you so much, Anicia, for your prayers. We need a lot of prayers right now. Continued, Lydia Smith. Does the paperwork state Richard was murdered? Annie Gardy. Glad we can help you with finding the other sources to help you. Angelica Zarzukia. Prayers to Mom and his family. Thank you. Zarzuia. I hope I pronounced that right. That's a beautiful name. And thank you for the prayers. Exactly. No, he's not. He is, uh, and I know what Annie is saying. He is very together until they got their hands on him. And yeah, I'm just going to be crying about this. I cannot even tell you. While I am battling these evil people, they are just so evil. And I hope everyone takes up their pen and writes El Paso Matters, writes their board of directors, writes El Paso Community Foundation, and say this is absolutely unacceptable. Write KFOX, write KTEP, which is UTEP, which is absolutely, see, they've committed crimes in this case. So, us receiving the notice of death is is their worst nightmare, because now we are able to put on Richard's shoes, and we can um, get the information that was withheld from us. So that's why this very quick to control the narrative. And Bob Moore never contacted us for his story. And the other they need, the other journalists need time to wrap their heads around what just happened to put out the story. And he just puts out this quick story um, of deception, of absolute deception, and a content thief. So I hope everyone, I'm so sorry you're going through this. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. It is really, it is for our son. And of course, anytime you do something like this, it involves the bigger picture for El Paso, for Juarez. And we were there. We went over to Juarez. We saw what they were doing to the people of Juarez. It's criminal. It's absolutely criminal. And, we just wouldn't be able to sleep at night unless we burned the midnight oil and fought for what is right. So, yeah, Richard was absolutely troubled about the criminal network there and what they were doing and what they were doing to El Paso. You see, I was born at New Mexico, White Sands, New Mexico. I went to school in El Paso. Rob went to school in El Paso. Rob's father was at Fort Biggs. My dad was on Fort Bliss. Was Army. His father was Air Force. We have a long history with that area. We love that area. We have people that we love that live in that area. We understand what they're doing to that area. Some of the highest taxes in that area. Why? And they are absolutely um, trying to cash in with all of this criminal activity. And Richard called them out on it. He's a confirmed whistleblower, and it's just now a matter of time since we're allowed to act as him. And that's what makes them nervous, because it's going to expose. So get ready. Get ready. It's going to expose so much that's going on. And as this goes out, I just want to let people know that we haven't forgotten them and their help. We have not. We absolutely know who has provided us with information, um, that leads that have helped us expose a lot of this criminality, and also that supports that Richard, um, one of those five things we always were focusing on, but they all point to one thing, that he was forcibly removed from the barracks while he was in uniform, and that he was murdered, and that he was removed, his remains were removed from Fort Bliss, and they dishonored him. And there is a law that says you cannot dishonor uh, a corpse, desecrate a corpse, dishonor a corpse. And so we want Richard's remains. And Bob Moore right now of El Paso Matters, backed by El Paso Community Foundation, which is huge because that's West Star Bank. And where is Greg Abbott, Governor Abbott, in all of this? Why would he allow them to play dirty with a soldier, which he absolutely knows was a whistleblower, confirmed, absolutely knows that he was murdered? Where is he in this? So, I know El Paso Community Foundation, West Star Bank is a great contributor and all of that. But, when you're a governor, you don't have a choice. You need to be there for our volunteer sons and daughters and their families. And you need to make sure that that family gets the remains of their loved one. And I would say that about Veronica Escobar, and I would say that absolutely about Ted Cruz, and absolutely about, well, Cornyn and Graham, and all of these. They should be absolutely coming out for us. But you see, something is not right, and that's what we're pointing out. Something is not right. Their loyalties belong in the wrong place. And we don't pay them for their loyalties to be in the wrong place. We don't elect them and pay them and, give them everything for their loyalties to be in the wrong place. So, thank you so much. So we have ongoing investigations right now. State investigations, federal investigations, and international investigations. And anyone that's been paying attention absolutely knows that we have been talking about all of those, as much as we possibly can. And so now with Richard's notice of death, we can't hinder those investigations. We don't want to interfere with those investigations. Um, I can tell you this, Bob Moore's story is soup sandwich. It's muddy waters. It's not right. It's a deception. It is a deception. And so that is really important. We know this about Leilani Hart. She's a convicted criminal and she's a key suspect in this case. And her boyfriend was CID Special Agent Tavita Nusa. Was he a special agent? Just dirty agent. Dirty agent Tavita Nusa. And he gave her unauthorized access to tamper with the investigation. And she went on to meet with Bob Moore at El Paso Matters and was used as a source. And she's a convicted criminal. And her son, Dallas Hart, is Richard's platoon leader. But Bob Moore did not disclose that. He did not disclose that there's a problem here. She's a convicted criminal and for lying to law enforcement authorities and also being very violent. There are reports that she was out to kill her husband. There are reports of assault. There are reports that suspicions that she killed her son Eddie. Eddie is the oldest son, and even on this live stream we had a witness come on and say he was a friend of Eddie, and Eddie didn't commit suicide. And wherever she goes, it seems like there's death and destruction. And he goes, yes, death and destruction. And he wouldn't be surprised if Leilani Hart had a part in Eddie's death and destruction. And he accused her of physical abuse of Eddie, witnessing the marks on Eddie, and we have additional information on Eddie because you see, we've been talking to her victims, and her victims have given out all of the bit by bit. It was Operation Hansel and Gretel. We just needed crumb after crumb after crumb, and then we could it would lead us to the truth. And some of those crumbs were all about Eddie, E-T-I. You spell his name E-T-I, and and his death. And there's more. There's so much more because just the way that he was viewed at his funeral was evidence that something is a little fishy. Things are, you're told one thing and then the pictures say something else. And the victims, feared for their family's life. Feared for their family's life. So does Leilani Hart have the propensity to this exceeding kind of violence? Well, her record shows that she does. Hawaii, Colorado, and Texas. And, and I, I don't want to hurt the investigation. The point is that Bob Moore did not disclose that in his report. Bob Moore did not disclose that in his report. And he did not contact us ever. Why didn't he contact us? We have like 14 times that we've tried to get him to respond to us, and we've sent him all kinds of information, asked for him to call us. We have been totally available, and he doesn't want to do that because he doesn't want to disclose Leilani Hart's criminal history and violence, her criminal violence, and that it would open up her son's Eddie's story, and it would be like 2 investigations, because a murder case never, you could wait years. What is that? The time thing. You don't have that with a murder case. So, then she'd be, under 2, because she's a prime suspect in the murder case of our son. And so this is really important for everyone. Bob Moore is not disclosing all of this. She's parading around her CID inside man, the man on the inside. And he's not disclosing this. She's not a reliable source, and he is not, cannot be an independent journalist, because his acts and his part in our son's case is criminal. Absolutely criminal. And I hope that makes sense to everybody. What information was withheld? I just spewed that out. The information, on and on and on and on. Breaking news for almost 4 years. But the information about Richard's phone being taken away from him before he was murdered is very important. The information that he is a confirmed whistleblower is very important. The information that his remains still remain missing. Can you have a murder case without the remains? Yes. Yes, there was, I have it here. I looked up a case. Let me see here. See if I find it. The notes are so long, but it was about a female in the desert that was murdered or went to a bar, and let's see if I can find it. Maybe I can't find it right away. Oh, Erica Guyton. Is that right? Erica Guyton. So that's in El Paso. She was never found. Her remains are never found. And yet her murderer was convicted. And so, yes, we have enough. We have enough. We've had enough, and we've turned it in. beyond a reasonable doubt that Richard was murdered. And but we want his remains. And so I pause because, we do have these ongoing investigations, and just pray. Pray for those. Last night, I dreamt about digging up potatoes, and I was told by my mother that's a very good thing. That's a very good thing because those are treasures, those are truths. And I said, and there was some flowing water, and she said, "Oh, that's a good thing." Um, you know, those are that's hope. That's flowing in the right direction, hope and um, faith. And so, yeah, I've never dreamt about digging up potatoes before. I've planted potatoes lots of times. I had them last year, but I've never dreamt about it. So, wow, I believe in dreams, the spirits, the angels talking, God talking to us through dreams. Absolutely, absolutely. So, um, yeah. So thank you. If you have any more questions, who confirmed his whistleblower status? Belen Rocha. I think that's really important. Him calling Washington, D.C., him calling FBI Houston, him calling 911, Belen Rocha a couple times. Also, um, his unit member, um, the the IG all over the barracks because of Halliday. We have that. Um, we have the confirmation from CID Marlon Soto saying that they were under audit. Their guns were all over the place and they were under audit. Um, and also from Brigadier General David Stewart, that the barracks were flush with weapons, and they had to handle all of that. Yes, so there were lots of IG complaints because of Halliday. Because of Halliday, the IG were all over because of Halliday, and of course, we have Boleyn's testimonies and even the screenshots from confirming that he's a whistleblower. And there's more, and there's more. So the CPS complaints, yeah, absolutely a confirmed whistleblower. And I think that's very important. And knowing that his phone was taken away from him before he went missing is very important. And, where are his remains? So, okay, everyone. Thank you so much for coming on so late. It's just been really crazy working very, very quickly. And just to let you know, Bob Moore is up to no good. He's dirty. He's playing in the mud. And there's two reasons why this has been so difficult with all of the interference. And that is dirty agent Tavita Nusa in the CID and dirty journalist Bob Moore in El Paso Matters. Both criminal activity in their part in this case. And so thank you so much. God bless you. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing.